Hello, everybody. We're back again, or for those of you that are joining us for the first time, hello. So I'm Ben, and Lawrence is the mastermind behind this, so I'll let him introduce himself first.
Ben, you're too kind. You're too kind. I've had a fantastic team that supported me with this. People that have volunteered in the background as well. So hello, I can't take
We're back again, or for those
all
of you that are joining
the credit
us
for it.
First time, hello. So I'm Ben, and Lawrence is the mastermind behind this. Are you watching the live stream in the background?
Ben, you're too kind. You're too kind. I don't think I am, Ben, but I'm getting an echo. I tried to find it. People that have volunteered in the background.
I'm going to mute you for a second while you find that. So everyone, that's Lawrence making sure that the stream is looking right. So he's got it on in the background. Have you found it?
Right, schoolboy, I'm back. Yes, I have found it. So I do apologize. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone. And I think I did say that. So Ben, let's get started today.
Cool. So yeah, really pleased to have everyone in. I can see that a few people have already started to add a few comments. So please keep your comments coming. And those of you that joined us for previous ones, like Excellency Matthew and Shannon, continue to comment like you have done throughout the last couple of days. It's really useful to be able to put those questions, your questions, to the speakers. And for people who are joining us for the first time, like Tia, welcome. And yeah, just follow everyone else's lead and comment away. No stupid questions. We've got lots of really interesting speakers with a diverse set of jobs. So please feel free to keep on asking, and we'll try and put your questions to as many of your questions as we can to them as we go. So I'll let Lawrence introduce himself, and then I'll give you a bit of my background as well before we get started.
So I'm Lawrence Tajani. I'm the founder of Just a Guy Foundation. I'm also a director at Happy to Host Limited, which is a web design development company. And I taught for 10 years before becoming a Google trainer and being able to travel around the world to deliver training to different schools. A lot more, I've been doing it in my office at home because of COVID-19. But yeah, that's my brief career intro.
Yeah, and I'm Ben. So I trained as a civil engineer in university, became a civil engineer for a year before I decided to change tack to become a maths teacher. So I did that for 13 years, mainly in Epsom and then also in New Addington, just outside of Croydon, before going full-time into training. So I do a lot of workshops. It used to be around the world, but yeah, now it's from my basement. Basically around Google for Education tools and also facilitate some design sprints as well. But most importantly, I'm here today because it's a great opportunity for you as young people to hear from some really interesting people with interesting careers, and just understand that maybe whatever you're worried about is not something to be worried about, and just follow your passions and you're going to do really, really well. So without further ado, do you want to give a little bit of background on the Just a Guy Foundation, Lawrence?
Yes, please. Next slide. So just an intro of how this kind of came about and how the Just a Guy Foundation is supporting this. So I set this up originally as a blog to document my recovery from a severe epileptic attack, which I had to learn to walk again. But it's now transcended into a social enterprise. And the aim of the foundation is to improve aspirations and education outcomes for young people. And we do this through mentoring and workshops, also one-on-one mentoring too, and to help young people to become informed, confident, and be able to make reasoned decisions. And the big thing, or our big belief, is that all young people from different backgrounds should have access to networks of advice and support and mentoring. And by doing this, we're hoping that they'll be able to drive their own social mobility. So this is what I'm really passionate about today, and having this panel that we've got on this afternoon for you to really ask them questions that you're interested in as well. Next slide, please, Ben. Why are we doing this? So we're doing this because essentially you haven't been able to do work experience, and work experience was a huge factor for me in terms of my maturity and being able to speak to people from different backgrounds, and also in having access to people that I necessarily wouldn't have if I didn't go on work experience in year 10. So I was out for a run and I thought, how could I do something during this pandemic? And I thought I've actually got some really good friends and who are doing some amazing jobs, and thought, let's get on their back and ask them to volunteer and to speak about their careers. Some of the people, it's been hard to get hold of, but they're here today, and I'm really excited for you to hear them talk. Next slide, please. And also, I thought I was feeling generous today, so it's competition time too. To be in for a chance of winning £20 of Amazon vouchers, all you have to do is follow us on our social, which is @JustAGuy_LT, both on Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. I never thought I'd be saying those lines, subscribe, comment, and like, but hey, this is the new thing. So yeah, don't forget to do that, please. And questions. This is about you today. It's really about all of you who are in this chat, all of you that are going to watch this later. Ask your questions. Don't be afraid to ask them. As Ben said, there's no stupid questions. Get them out there. The panel are here for you today, and yeah, get the most out of this session. So here are our amazing lineup. First, we've got on Michelle. So I'm going to bring Michelle to the stage, and we'll do that. So if Ben, if you could bring on Michelle, please.
Absolutely. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure. So Michelle is a marketing lead at Channel 4, and she's responsible for some of the adverts you may have seen. So I'm really excited about this talk here. I know a lot of people are. So I'm going to disappear because it's not about me today. It's about you, Michelle, sharing your knowledge. And Ben, I think we'll just make an exit. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep the questions coming in and we'll put them to Michelle at the end. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys. Hi, everyone. As Ben and Lawrence mentioned, my name is Michelle. I'm a marketing lead at Channel 4. So what does that involve? Next slide, please. So I lead marketing campaigns for Channel 4 scripted content, which includes drama, comedy, films, and acquisitions. And what acquisitions are just basically programs that we buy in from other networks or buy in from other countries. So think of American sitcoms, for example, like Big Bang Theory, or American dramas like Handmaid's Tale. So essentially, it is my responsibility to take a campaign from beginning to end, and make sure that people know what the program is, know who's in it, if it's got any recognizable faces, know when it's on, and also know where they can find it, whether that's going to be on Channel 4, our main channel, or E4, our youth channel, or Film 4, our film channel, basically. So next slide. So I break my role down to these two distinctive parts. It's definitely a bit more complicated than this, but just so that I can just break it down a bit easily. So first things first is to look at the audience, and my role heavily relies on understanding who an audience or a viewer might be for any particular show. So we have a big research team at Channel 4, so you can find out, what 16-year-olds are like, what do they like watching, where do they find out about TV shows, and what are they currently watching on TV, what might they like about this particular show. So you've really got to understand the audience before you even start any sort of campaign. So essentially, once you understand the audience and you understand the show, I would build a brief and essentially brief in the creative team. So we have a creative agency inside Channel 4 called 4 Creative, and that's made up of producers, promo directors, like big creative thinkers, designers, and whatnot. So I essentially go to them saying, this is the audience, this is the show, we need to get them really excited about it. Can you create some marketing assets that will do that? So I'll talk a little bit about those marketing assets and what they might be. Next slide, please. So this is an example of a trailer for a program called Ackley Bridge. It was about a school where there was a white community and an Asian community, and we wanted to show how they came together. And we just wanted to give people a flavor for the show using this promo. So if the video plays, can we run that now?
Curry sauce, onion chips. How's that? Keep it down.
Jordan, where are you going?
Bridge, the new series, coming soon on Channel 4.
So yes, a trailer is one of the biggest assets that we have. It gives you about 60 seconds to tell people what the program's about. So even when you're thinking of a film release, the trailer's always the big deal. So that's the same at Channel 4. In terms of other marketing assets, on the next slide, we also have posters. So that might involve shooting a poster with the cast and getting them all down to set and shooting an idea, or promoting the program on social media, so using Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook to get people excited about the show. So next slide, please. In terms of my personal background, education-wise, so I did my GCSEs, which were a long time ago, don't ask me when. I did 3 A levels, English Business Studies and Media Studies. I did a degree in marketing at Aston Business School. I worked for a year, then I went back to do a master's in international marketing. And then while I've been working at Channel 4, I was able to train and get a mini MBA in marketing. So by the looks of this, it does sound like I have always wanted to do marketing, but I will sort of flag that you don't necessarily have to have done a marketing degree to get into marketing. I'm one of the few people in the team who do have a marketing degree. I think other people have done maths, English, science. It's all really about the passion for the job, and you can learn pretty much as you gain experience. So yeah, on to the next slide, please. Where I've worked before, so I was a junior PR consultant straight out of uni at a global PR company. I also was able to go to New York for 3 months and work at 2 companies, Teen Vogue magazine and Mission PR. And they were essentially 3-month placements while I was in between jobs, and I was still a student actually. It was just after my master's. And I think the lesson that came out of this is that sometimes you can just ask for an opportunity and you never know when the doors might open. I probably sent about 100 emails to different companies in New York saying, hey, I'm just out of my master's, I really want to get some international experience, please can I come and work here? I have probably got 98 no's, and these were the 2 yeses. So just having that perseverance can actually work wonders. And then I also have a platform outside of Channel 4, which is about diversity and inclusion in television and film, because it's a message and an area that is quite close to my heart. So initially it started off as a hobby, a side project, and over the years it's grown where I get to now go to screenings and interview talent and just talk about up and coming films featuring Black talent in particular. So on the next slide, you can see that some of the people we've interviewed before include Amara Santi, who's a BAFTA-winning director, Michaela Cole, Amanda Stenberg, and also Daniel Kaluuya, Jodie Turner-Smith, who were recently in Queen and Slim. But this is just to show that even if you're not in the industry, there are side projects that you can do that can actually open up doors for you to get into the industry too. So my proudest professional achievement today, okay, I've narrowed it down to 2, one outside of Channel 4, one in Channel 4. So the one outside of Channel 4 was a web series called Brothers with No Game, and I was part of launching it. And the second one was winning a broadcast digital award for Ackley Bridge, so the program that you just saw. So on to the next slide, I'll speak a little bit about Brothers with No Game. That was essentially a web series created by a group of friends. It was about 4 guys who absolutely had no luck when it came to women and life. And my friend was a writer just out of uni, and I was just starting out my marketing career as well. So this was an example of friends coming together to collaborate on a project. And so again, I encourage you to look around you. If you're interested in marketing or any sort of industry, you might be able to team up with your friend who's launching a business and lend your skills to that. It's just a really great way of building up your experience before you get into the industry. Now Brothers with No Game can be seen in 88 countries around the world, and that's just come out of a side project that I worked on with a few friends. So that's something I'm really proud about. And then in terms of Ackley Bridge, on the next slide, Ackley Bridge, this campaign was the first time a UK broadcaster used Snapchat in this space. So essentially, I worked with the cast to film behind the scenes content that could go out on Snapchat. So essentially, when you were watching Ackley Bridge on air, so Tuesday 8 PM, as it was playing out on screen, you could also get extra content on your phone through Snapchat, which helps you to just get deeper into the storylines, deeper into the characters. It would be as if they were talking directly through to you. So that ended up winning like a prestigious industry award, the Broadcast Digital Awards. And so I'm super, super proud of that too. In terms of knowledge and skills that are essential, as I mentioned, qualifications is one thing, but love and passion is super, super important. Just like having that love for the industry, showing that you do have a thirst for knowledge, that you've read about it, that you found out about it, that you've explored it in your own time, that works wonders. Negotiation and diplomacy are also critical if you're working in marketing, because essentially you've got to feed back on ideas, especially with a creative team or to talent, and do it in a way that doesn't offend them. So you can't just walk in and be like, oh, that trailer's a bit dead, like, I hate it. You've got to be like, oh, I like that bit about the trailer, but I'm not too sure about this bit. Can we switch it around and maybe that will work? So you've definitely got to be quite diplomatic. And then teamwork is really, really important. I think if you're someone who likes working by yourself with your head down and not interacting with other people, you probably will find marketing, especially in TV, quite difficult, because it's my responsibility to try and pull in all the different teams involved in a campaign. So that's people working in social media, people from the press team, actors, commissioners who make the programs. I've got to try and corral all of them in order to get a campaign delivered. So it definitely takes a big team to do that. Then as a teenager, what did I wish I knew? I wish I knew that it was fine to be myself. I think because I didn't know anyone working in television, that as a Black woman, I hardly saw myself on screen. I almost felt like maybe the industry wasn't a place for me. I'm quite reserved as a person, and I always thought maybe in media you have to be quite loud and in your face. But I realized as I was working in it that my unique difference was actually my selling point. So what I realized was that I was really great at building relationships and being diplomatic. Everyone used to say, I'm sure you could work for the UN because you're able to just, minimize any sort of conflict when working in a team. So I had all these perceptions in my head of what I needed to be like, when essentially I already had those skills that would work well within any industry. So I would encourage you not to sort of be put off by any sort of preconceptions that you might have of a place, or to think that you might not be the right fit. I'm sure you will. You just need to identify your strength and really hone in on it, and then use that as your selling point. In terms of how people can find out about the industry, and I'll talk about it, I'm referring to media and television in general. RTS Features and BAFTA Guru are great platforms. They give you a breakdown of the different careers that are available within the industry. They also host panels and masterclasses if you want to get closer to people actually working in the industry. So I'd definitely shout them out. The network is a scheme that I went on when I first started out in my TV career. So I didn't have any TV experience, TV marketing experience whatsoever, and you don't need it. Again, the application form just asks you to demonstrate your passion for it. And essentially, again, it was masterclasses and panels, and I was able to make great contacts within the industry, which I then used to secure work experience afterwards. So I'll definitely tell you to check that out. Creative Access and Media Trust are really great at setting up mentorship schemes and bringing people from marginalised communities closer to the industry. So check those out and just ask. We're always looking for new, fresh blood and new ideas, because television is all about ideas. And even marketing is all about new ideas, and working creative teams is all about new ideas. So having more people coming in from different backgrounds is essential to the lifeblood of the industry. So just ask. You might, see a name on LinkedIn or in a newspaper article or in a magazine. Just reach out to that person and say, can I just have like 15 minutes of your time just to find out more about what you do? And I'm sure they'll say yes. If they say no, they might say not now. Just persevere and find a time that works for the both of you. So I know that was a whistle-stop tour, but if you want to find out more about what I do inside of Channel 4 and outside of Channel 4, I do have a website called imichelleolsu.com, or you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Michelle Shanti. Then just as a final word in terms of what I want to leave with you on the next slide, I just want to sort of reiterate that you don't have to have it all figured out. As I said, I worked at a PR company. I realized I didn't quite like PR. I also ended up working in project management at a charity, and realized that wasn't for me either. I think definitely use this time and any break that you might have to speak to people, to ask for work experience, to just ask for a chat and a coffee, and find out what you like and what you don't like. And don't feel like you just have to have everything figured out from the jump, because you will get there. So I hope that was useful, and that anyone who's interested in this career, again, feel free to reach out to me, and I can answer any sort of questions that you might have. So thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. There's been a load of questions. If you're ready
Go easy on me, guys. Go easy.
It's probably a couple of key themes that are in there. One particularly here is, have you ever taken a risk on a new tactic or idea and maybe gone against some of your other colleagues or your boss, and did it pay off?
That's a really, really interesting question. I'm trying to think of one.
Don't get yourself into trouble now.
I know, exactly. This is confidential, but safe space in the room. So there was an idea, Humans, I don't know if anyone's aware of that series, it was a sci-fi series. And we talked about an idea where we had a bit of a creative stunt, where it was basically, sorry, the background of the series that these synth robots, you can bring them into your home and they will be part of your family. So we wanted to put out an advert to make it look like these synths, you could actually buy them in the shop. So it was very risky in that there are so many advertising rules when it comes to marketing, like about misleading the public, causing offense, making people unnecessarily scared. So there was a lot of conversation back and forth with our legal team to figure out, is this something we could do and get away with it? Because if you do get complaints when it comes to marketing, you can actually be fined. So that was a big risk to take. And essentially it paid off because it was one of our biggest returning dramas. The campaign got talked about in so much media and global media as well. So it was definitely worth the risk, but it was definitely a risk to be taken. So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
One of the questions that I would like to ask is, I know you mentioned Scene TV, and I think this is particularly important to the audience today in terms of how you went about starting up that platform, that news platform, and how can they do that as well?
I think it all starts from passion. Again, I've mentioned it a couple of times. So diversity in TV and film is something that I've been passionate about, and I did it for myself almost. And I think if you speak to a lot of creators, they make content that they like, or they do things because they enjoy it, because there are going to be times when you're tired after work and you don't want to do it. The love and the passion for it is what's going to keep you consistent. So I would say just start small and just start, because sometimes you can always just put things off in your mind thinking, oh, it's not gonna fly, or no one's gonna be interested in it. Just start. So I started just writing articles for myself. If I saw a show, I'd write a review about it and then start sharing out on social media. And then eventually it started to build momentum. So it's gone from me just writing blog articles to now me interviewing Hollywood talent. So that's just the journey and the opportunity that can come out of it. And I never, ever expected it to go that far. So I would just say, just do it for yourself, be consistent and share it. That's another thing. We're always quite scared to share our work. You've got to be a bit bold and confident. And if 2 people read your first article, it's fine. 7 people might read it the next time. And then that's just going to keep growing and growing.
Yeah, and that follows on to my next question.
I think Matthew's question got answered there in terms of maybe not quite assertive, but definitely like putting yourself out there and sort of being willing to take a little bit of a chance.
And persevering, because you will get no's. I think I've had hundreds of no's, whether it's going for a job, whether it's putting an idea forward, whether it's, asking to interview someone. You get hundreds of no's, and you've just got to have that. Okay, take it on the chin. It's maybe not this time, but there will be a next time, and you will get as many yeses as you do get no's.
And just the last question for now is, how do you gain more confidence?
I really think that's a great question, and it's a lifelong journey. I think that does come with experience, it does come with age, and I think you've almost got to let go of the fear. I think the fear is what holds a lot of people back, what other people will think or what other people are going to say. So again, if you just look at yourself, like, I'm doing this for me, I'm number one, and try to shut out all the sort of noise around it, then that would help. And I would also say lean on your friends. My friends have been a great support group, my colleagues, people who work in other industries. Some of them you will hear from today, and if you were to say, you would hear from them too. I think they're really good at speaking energy and confidence into me if I need like a boost, or if I'm like, oh, I'm not sure about this, what do you think? So just having that support network that you trust is really, really important too.
Thank you, Michelle. It was a really good talk. There's loads of questions. We will get to the questions we'll try our best to when we get to the panel Q&A. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye to Michelle, and thanks again for your time. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. See you in a bit. Okay, Lawrence, are you ready for our next guest?
Yes, I am. So next on stage, we've got Sharina Boucher, who's a senior diagnostic radiographer at Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital. So hi, Sharina, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm really good, thanks. How are you guys?
We're good. We're excited about this.
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, no, very excited to talk to kids and share a bit about what I do, essentially.
Okay. So we're just going to hand it over to you, and we'll be back with our questions. So guys, remember to keep on asking the questions and get involved in the chat.
Cool, thank you. So as Lauren's explained, I am Sharina and I'm a radiographer. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So when you kind of take it all the way back, what is a radiographer? You have two different kinds. You have a therapeutic radiographer who uses radiation for therapeutic purposes. So that's going to be your kind of cancer treatment, your radiotherapy, that kind of thing. And then you've got diagnostic radiographers. We also use radiation, but we use it to produce images of high diagnostic quality to aid the management, diagnosis, and treatment of pathologies. And what that means is that we essentially produce images, X-rays, for example, of high quality to allow for the diagnosis of pathologies if they can be seen on that particular type of imaging. When we're kind of producing these diagnostic images, there are kind of two main factors, I'd say, that play the biggest roles in that. It'd be the exposure that we give and also positioning. So when I say the radiation exposure that we give, that's the amount of radiation that we give someone. And we don't give everyone the same amount. It depends on various factors like your age, the area of the body that we're X-raying, your size, for example. And we have to take all of these things into account when we as the radiographers select the amount of radiation that we think would be most appropriate for you. And we have to be really careful because we don't want to give you too much radiation for that X-ray because we risk overexposing the image, and what happens is you get a really kind of blacked out image where you can't even distinguish bone from air, so that's no good at all. But you also don't want to give you too little radiation, because if we do that, we won't be able to see the kind of finer details in the bones to see whether there is a fracture, if there's something else that could possibly be going on. So we need to find some type of happy medium between the two. And also we're very particular about our positioning. Positioning is so, so important. A poorly positioned patient can easily obscure any type of injury or fracture that could otherwise be seen on a well-positioned patient. And working in A&E, for example, or even just hospital life in general, we encounter patients that present to us in many different ways. They could be unconscious, just drunk and disorderly. We have children coming in crying. We have people in general that are obviously just in pain, they're suffering and they just want help. And a lot of the time people aren't able to kind of follow the instructions themselves in ways that we need them to. So it's up to us as the radiographers to adapt our technique as much as we can. You have to think on your toes a lot. You have to use whatever resources around you can think of to try and get the best possible image for those patients. Essentially, the better the quality images we provide, the better the team have of figuring out exactly what's going on with you and the better chance they have of treating you. So we tend to adapt our technique quite a lot in the department, but also out of the department when we go and X-ray patients on the wards that are too unwell to come down to us. We bring the X-rays to them. But there are some types of imaging, like CT, for example, where we can't bring it to you. So you can imagine for our intensive care patients that are quite high risk patients anyway, they have to leave the ward and come down to us in CT. Now that can be quite a risky and also quite a high pressure environment, especially if the patient who's unwell anyway. They could be rapidly deteriorating and the team urgently need a scan to try and figure out exactly what's going on with them. So there's a lot of things to be aware of. We have to collaborate with many different professions and we all just try and work together for the better of the patient. So as I mentioned, as radiographers, you'll find us all over the hospital. I've mentioned you'll find us in A&E with X-ray and CT, but you'll also find us in the fluoroscopy and in the interventional radiology department. We do different things in each of those. Some of them we do kind of live screening for diagnostics tests, and in the other one we do kind of procedures which will image throughout. You'll also find us down in theatres. There are lots of operations where they need kind of live screening for what's going on. Say, for example, you break your leg and the orthopaedic surgeons need to put a massive nail through your tibia, which is your lower leg, and we'll be imaging throughout all of that to make sure the screws are in the right place, to make sure the bones are properly aligned. So these are really important jobs that we need to be there for, to make sure that, you know, other professions can do their jobs effectively as well. As I mentioned, we do use radiation, and the thing about radiation is that we need to be safe with what we're doing, and we need to keep the amounts as minimal as we can, but still enable you to get the best out of that. With radiation in general, the kind of more that you have throughout your lifetime, the more likely you are to develop long-term conditions such as cancer, for example. So as the radiographers, radiation safety is of high importance to us. We do whatever we can to try and make sure we keep that dose as low as possible. And I know I've touched on obviously all these things that require radiation for imaging, but there are also types of imaging that don't require radiation. That'd be your MRI, which uses magnets instead. That'd be ultrasound, which uses ultrasonic waves, and also nuclear medicine as a modality of imaging as well. What they do is they inject a radioactive material, and basically the patient becomes the radiation source, if that makes sense. But yeah, next slide, please. So for me, I've always been kind of geared towards the sciences. Biology and chemistry, physics especially, were kind of my thing. Carried that over into my A levels, and then I went to study diagnostic imaging at university. That is a 3-year course, and not everyone on my course had the same kind of pathway into the course. Some of them didn't have any kind of scientific background at all. They kind of figured out later on in life what they wanted to do. And so what they did is that they did a year access course, which kind of taught them all the foundation knowledge about science that they'd require for the course. And then they went on to actually study that 3-year degree. After that degree, I went into working where I am now with the NHS Trust that I'm with. And as part of my new role in CT, we quite often injects X-ray dye into our patients, and what that does is it highlights different areas of the body. It's kind of a more thorough look at the body as well, and it's really useful when you're looking for certain things like bleeds, for example, if you're looking for tumours, if you're looking for obstructions in the ureters, anything like that. It's a really, really useful tool. And to do that, we will insert a cannula into your arm. So that's essentially just a little plastic tube that gives us direct access into a blood vessel. We inject the contrast using a contrast injector. I've got an image of it there on the screen. And as well as knowing how to insert these cannulas, it's really, really important that we're actually able to assess how well these cannulas are working. The thing about X-ray dye is it's pretty much safe for most people when it goes directly into the bloodstream. But if for whatever reason a cannula fails mid-injection, you've got contrast going not into the bloodstream but into the surrounding tissue, what happens is that contrast will start to harden. And as it hardens, it compresses the soft tissue around it. Now, with those tissues that are all kind of condensed and compressed, they're not receiving enough oxygen. So essentially, those cells will start to die. And in really, really, really severe cases of this happening, it can actually result in the amputation of a limb. So there's a lot of responsibility there, and we have to be trained very well to assess these cannulas and do what we can to prevent these types of things from happening. As I mentioned, the type of dye that we use is safe for most people to have. We have training in using the type of dye. The one that we use at my trust is called Omnipaque 350. Some people are going to be more likely to have a possible reaction from that. And so we need to be able to figure out who those people may be. Do we need to give them or make sure they've had any intervention to limit any chances of them having a reaction from the radiation? But in really kind of severe cases, the scary thing is that as with any allergy, you have no idea you're allergic to it until you have that. So for the minority of patients, you will have some that will be severely allergic to the dye that we give. And when I say severely allergic, I mean full-on anaphylactic reaction, throat swelling, heart stopping, that kind of thing. And so it's so, so important that we are fully trained and are able to act quickly if these situations do ever arise. Next slide, please. So previously I worked in retail throughout school and throughout university as well. What was really cool about kind of a lot of the healthcare courses is that a lot of them give us kind of real-time experience. We do a lot of hospital placements, which prepare us for working straight away. So I had my summer off and then I went straight into working with the trust that I'm with now. I've been with them for about 3 years, roughly. So a couple of months ago, I applied for the role of a senior position within the trust. I was successful. And as I mentioned, as part of that role, I'm training in CT, but I'm also training in how to do interventional radiology, which is where we do other procedures and things that are also image guided. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, I'm training in CT, and for those of you that don't actually know what CT is, we do use X-rays, but it's not the same as what we call a plain film, which is kind of going to be like a 2D image. When we do CT, rather than taking a picture of you kind of face on, we take images as slices going through the body. And then what we do is we put all of those slices together to give us a full view of exactly what is going on inside of you. And it's really cool the way we can manipulate the data to make it look like we're looking at you kind of side to side or front to back. And we can even reconstruct it to make it look like it's 3D. So there's a lot that you can do with the data. CT is really cool. But yeah, as I mentioned, I'm learning in it. And there is a particular scan that we did. It's called a CTPA. It's a scan whereby we do we injected some contrast dye to highlight the pulmonary vessels, so the lung vessels in the chest. And with some patients, they can have clots in the pulmonary vessels. And what happens is they're not getting enough oxygen. Some of their organs may not be having enough oxygen. And in really kind of severe cases that are left untreated, patients can become really unwell and they can also die from it. I've included some images on the side just to show you what a pulmonary embolism would look like on a CT scan. If you look kind of where the bright white bits are, and you can see kind of like the darker bits that inside the white bits, that darker bit there is the clot. The white bit is where the blood flows. So the black bit is clearly obstructing the blood flow and showing where it's not flowing, even though it should be. So yeah, this particular patient I did the scan on, I was able to look through the images and here the clot that patient had, it wasn't as obvious as this, so I was really proud for being able to spot it. And because I spotted it, I was able to make the appropriate steps for that patient. So I flagged it with the radiologist, which is the person that reports the images officially. We both agreed, yeah, this patient needs to go down to A&E, sent the patient down to A&E, and as a result, they were admitted into hospital and were able to get the kind of treatment they needed. And as I mentioned, I was really proud of myself for doing that, because if I wasn't able to recognise that pathology was there, that patient could have been sent home as normal, and to be honest, who knows what would have happened if they had been just left there with that untreated. Next slide, please. So I've mentioned obviously a whole bunch of stuff about, you know, radiation safety, our technique that we use, checking if the cannula is safe and things like that. But with bearing all that kind of stuff in mind, you have to constantly remember that there is a patient at the center of everything that we do. We need to be caring, we need to be empathetic, we need to show them that we care. And I think being a patient as well is really important, that you feel like you're in the hands of someone that you can actually trust, you know, the hands of someone that you feel is actually competent in doing their job and will actually give you the care that you need. In terms of biology, it's so important that we have really detailed anatomical knowledge. We need to know what normal looks like so we can recognize what abnormal looks like. We need to be really aware of the body circulatory systems as well. As I mentioned, we inject X-ray dye and we do scans at different timings depending on what area of the body that we're looking at and what kind of pathology we're looking for. So you need to be really kind of hot on that as well. In terms of physics, like I said, radiation safety is a big one. We need to be aware of kind of how the machine works, especially if there are any kind of breakages and things that happen. We need to know how to manipulate radiation in terms of whatever patient walks through the door. And in terms of problem solving, this is healthcare. Things can go wrong all the time, whether it's patients becoming unwell, equipment isn't working. You could have people just calling for you left, right, and centre. You could have theatre calling saying, okay, we need a radiographer for this operation. You can have mobiles calling at the same time. Okay, we need an urgent mobile on the ward, someone's deteriorating. You can have A&E calling you saying, look, we've just had a trauma call, we need an urgent CT scan. You need to be able to definitely manage and work well under pressure, and also be able to organise yourselves and prioritise tasks, especially. Next slide, please. Do you know what? Yeah, so being in London especially, it's such a multicultural, such a diverse city, and we encounter people from all different backgrounds. And I think that if I'd actually paid more attention to learning a language as a child, it would have definitely benefited me more than I think in my adult life. And I always think that kind of, if you're in a situation yourself where, like, you know something is wrong, you know you need help, and you're in an environment where you don't understand what's going on, people are pulling you left, right, and centre, they're injecting you with things, and it's got to be such a scary and overwhelming situation. And I just think that if there was at least one person there that could actually understand you on a certain level, it would have made such a change, a positive change to that situation. And yeah, I also wish I knew I feel like growing up, you kind of have this pressure on you to kind of pick, you know, what you want to do and make moves towards that. But there shouldn't be that much pressure. You should take the time to experience different things and figure out exactly what it is that you want to do. And even if you're one of those people that think, yeah, I know what I want to do, this is where I want to go, don't then limit yourself from experiencing other things. Don't then prevent yourself from experiencing other things, because you don't know what's out there. You don't know if there is something else that you may prefer. So definitely try all you can and experience all you can. Next slide, please. Definitely, yeah, research. There's loads of resources online, YouTube especially. As I mentioned, we've got multiple different imaging modalities, and there are loads of useful videos on kind of how the machines work, the pros and cons of each especially. just there I've included some various images. The first is an MRI of the brain, the second is an X-ray of the forearm, the lower left one is the CT scanner, and bottom right is images from a nuclear medicine scan. And also, when all this kind of COVID stuff settles down, definitely try and get in touch with any imaging departments or any hospitals to try and organise a tour, just to really get a feel for the work and see, can you see yourself there? Because ultimately, what we do, it's a very practical job, it's a very clinical job. I can't do this from home, so you need to be able to kind of see, to ask yourself, is this somewhere I can see myself? Is this something I can actually see myself doing? And I think you can only do that by being there in the moment, in that environment. Next slide, please. Just as a final note, often people have no idea who radiographers are, what we do, but we are such a big part of so many people's journeys throughout the hospital. We see majority of patients at multiple points during their stay, and often we are the first people to see and recognise exactly what's going on. So it's up to us a lot of the time to flag that up with whoever's looking after you, because as you can imagine, a lot of conditions are quite time sensitive. The faster they're recognised, the faster intervention can be done, and the better off your treatment is most likely to be. So the role that we have in imaging is integral to healthcare. It's important. We're frontline workers, and ultimately not many other professions would be able to do their jobs effectively without us. And just to add, I think as long as you can kind of see the value in what you're doing, and as long as you are proud of what you're doing, then you'll be good. No matter where you end up, you'll be good. I think that's all though.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very interesting, and well done in spotting that. Pamela, I'm not even trying to say it. Yes, I did. Go straight into the questions quickly. So the question you may have thought, well, I think a lot of people wanted to know, is this from Rebecca. How has COVID-19 impacted your job and its importance?
Well, in terms of so for the rest of the nation that was kind of unaffected in lockdown, we definitely saw less of you in A&E, but for the patients that were really, really unwell, we saw many of them. It's a lot of PPE, a lot of time in a hot mask. We're definitely doing a lot more mobiles, because as you can imagine, COVID is a respiratory disease, so people's lungs can be really negatively impacted from this. I spoke a little bit about pulmonary embolisms. These COVID patients as well, we don't really know what it is, but their blood is also more likely to clot after having COVID. So we were doing a lot more of these scans for these query pulmonary embolism patients. But yeah, so we were seeing a lot more of these patients coming through. We had to organise ourselves quite a lot. We had to add a lot more radiographers in the department. We had to change our shifts quite a lot. There was a lot of change, and even now there's still a lot of change. Healthcare is not going to be the same. Our role is not going to be the same. And even for the patients that didn't kind of have COVID, they were almost preventing themselves from coming in when they actually did need help. And so we're seeing more of them kind of come through now that are in kind of worse conditions than if they were coming in. So hopefully that's answered your question a bit, just in terms of how my role is changing, is still changing, to be honest.
And just to add on to that question, how did you cope with having the PPE on as well for long periods of time?
Do you know what? I really feel for kind of the teams that are based on the wards, because to have all of that on for several hours at a time, it is hot, hot full stop. I'm not even joking. It's hot. And then when you're crossing over to that and you're having to do wear all of that in theatre especially, and then you've got lead gowns on top of that, it's just, honestly, it's a very stressful time for everyone that's involved. And for us as radiographers, we're often dipping in and out of patients, so it's a lot of put everything on, put everything off, everything on, everything off, and that came with its own kind of stresses and own issues in itself. But all of us have kind of managed to push through, and things are starting to relax, but they're not relaxed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Just going to quickly throw in a couple of questions, which I think are probably, well, actually, I think they're answered by someone else in the comment. But we had a question here about how did you protect yourself against constant exposure? And actually, I think Shannon kind of came in with an answer. Is that why when you get an X-ray done, you walk behind a screen?
Yeah, so the screen itself, it's lead lined. Lead will stop radiation essentially. So while we're behind that screen, we're safe. We're not receiving any radiation dose from there. When we're in theatres, obviously we don't have lead line screens to protect us. So what we'll do is that we'll wear lead aprons instead. As radiographers, we also have these little badges. We call them the TLD badges. It actually measures how much radiation we receive. Because when we go off and we do things like on the ward, for example, again, we don't have access to like these lead screens, for example. So it's up to us to use our knowledge. Like, we know, for example, the further we are away from the X-ray room, the lower the dose you receive. Things like that, and things of making sure you're really specific with the areas of the body that you're X-raying. Things like that will all impact the amount of radiation that you receive in terms of keeping that low as well. So we're definitely very safe with what we do. We're very aware of how we can keep doses safe. There's lots of things we can do in the rooms as well. I won't go into all of that detail. If you go in the course, you'll find out how.
Well, I'd like to add my appreciation to the job role, because I currently have a 9-year-old son in a full leg cast upstairs, having broken his tibia on a skate park. So we've spent several visits to various X-rays. So thank you, and all of your colleagues, for all of you're doing.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Sharina, we're going to pop you back today. There are loads of questions. We're going to try and get to them during the general Q&A. And thank you again. See you soon.
Thank you for giving me the time and the platform. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the next person we have coming to the stage is Kylie. She's a firefighter for the London Fire Brigade. And let's pop her on. Let's get her on.
Hi, Kylie.
Hello.
How you doing there?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you. Again, really excited to hear you talk about your job and your day-to-days of what you do as well.
Yeah, it should be good. I'm excited as well.
It will be good. I know it will.
I'll try my best.
Right, we'll leave you to it then.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, so hi, everyone. I'm Kylie Holmes-Lewis, and as you can see from the slide, I am a firefighter with the London Fire Brigade. Next slide, please. Right, so I'll just jump straight in. What does my role involve? So as you can see, it's firefighting and rescue, which is the primary role. Special services, I'll dig into those a bit later. It's everything to do, everything outside of firefighting, basically. Fire prevention and safety, so such as something simple as fitting smoke alarms and doing home fire safety visits in the community at your homes. Corresponding, so we did a trial for about almost 2 years actually, where we corresponded with the London Ambulance Service, LAS. So we attended Code 1, so cardiac arrests and stuff like that. So that's what we call corresponding. And the IEC stands for Immediate Emergency Care, which is already part of our role. So we have to do that as part of our training in order to be a firefighter. And then you've got incident and people management. So I can dig into that. So next slide, please. Right, okay, so in terms of studying and training I've had for my role, you can see here that I've done GCSEs up to the bachelor's degree, so I've got 2-1 from Kingston Uni in media and cultural studies. That's nothing to do with my my career at the moment, but in terms of sort of background and life experience, you know, going to uni, moving out of my family home, meeting new friends, it was very beneficial to what I do now, which is obviously talking to the community and interacting and working with different types of people from all skill sets, cultures and backgrounds. So I worked in different sectors. So I've worked in sort of the private and the public. So I've worked for quite a few sort of big supermarkets and hospitality companies. Life experience, I sort of touched on that. So it's just about getting out and seeing the world and seeing what you can bring back and what you can use to enhance your kind of experience of life. That's what it says on the tin, basically. And then my training was my initial firefighter training and competency. So that was based at Southwark Fire Station, which has sadly been knocked down now. So a lot of the old firefighters, they went through Southwark Training School, where we did our initial 17 months, some 19 months of initial firefighter training your bread and butter, essentially, which is putting fires out, putting ladders up, and getting water to work. So next slide, please. So yeah, I touched on this before. Where have I worked previously? So I was a sales account manager straight out of uni. So I did that for about 3 months. So it was my taster role, but it's my first sort of salary based role. So that was sort of selling media space to people in the hospitality industry through websites, magazines, and billboards, stuff like that. And then I was a buying assistant for Sainsbury's at their head office. So I was in the general merchandise and the entertainment sectors. So I was a buying assistant. So I was helping out with the logistics of getting products and putting up promotions and basically getting things set up on their system so that it could be sold in stores and online. And then my role that I did before joining the Fire Brigade was a course consultant and advice and guidance officer at a further education college. So it was literally welcoming people into the college, explaining what the courses were that we had available, giving them advice, guidance about where they want to go in terms of their education, what they want to do for their career, and what would be the best course to facilitate that. So I worked there for about 2 years, and then I joined the Fire Brigade. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm literally, I'm trying to, let me try and slow things down, because I do get excited about my role. So I kind of like whiz through things. So that's probably a bit of advice for you guys, just to take your time, take a deep breath, and sort of like, yeah, take your time. So what is my proudest professional achievement to date? So for me, in terms of just life and my personal aspirations and goals, was graduation from university. Because initially at college, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to go to uni. I was like, well, maybe I'll take a gap year after my A-levels and let's see, if I want to go to uni. But knowing myself, I thought if I don't do it and I go for a gap year, I probably would never even go to uni. I'll probably sort of come out the loop and think, you know what, I'll just go into working. So my sort of proudest professional achievement was graduating uni, so in 2007. And then I mentioned about getting my first salary-based job. So for me, that was like the sort of affirmation that, Kylie, you're turning into an adult now, you've got a salary-based job. Okay, so now you're working full-time, and now you can start to get on with your life. So that was quite a professional, proud achievement, sorry. And then, yeah, I love my job, can you tell? Was joining the LFB at 23 years of age. That was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, wow. And then obviously, whilst on duty, I was called up to attend the Grenfell Tower fire. So I say I'm proud to have been there. It was a tragedy, and it was awful. But in terms of what I stand for, me wanting to help people, my role as a firefighter for the London Fire Brigade, I was very, very proud, overly proud to have been able to give my help and assistance on that horrible, horrible night. But that's my proudest professional achievement to date. Let's a little mix up. Next slide, please. Right, okay. So what skills, knowledge are essential for this role industry? So the first thing people kind of think about when you say firefighter is, oh, you've got to be big, strong, and muscly. And to some extent, that's true, because you need to handle yourself, you need to handle your teammates, you need to be able to lift equipment, you need to be able to hold your own. You need, in a fire, you need to make sure that you've got the strength to actually hold all the equipment and get things done. But in addition to that, you also need to have that determination, that focus, confidence, and flexibility. So determination to get the work done, determination to get through the initial training in the first place, determination just in general. You need to make sure that you're able to get things done. Focus is, you need focus. You need unwavering focus when you're faced with a raging fire. So like you're in a house, you need to make sure that you're focused. You can recall your training, you can go back to your basics. You need to have that focus to remember all the things that you've accrued in knowledge over time to actually tackle that fire and get that job done. Confidence, you need to have confidence to actually be able to go into that fire, to deal with those incidents, and actually to know that you can do it. So confidence is key. Flexibility, Nothing's ever the same. No two jobs, no 2 days are the same. So you need to make sure that you're able to be flexible so that you can adapt and overcome and make sure you get stuff done. Working as a team, we go in to fires, we go about our daily jobs working as a team. We call it a watch. So I'm part of Red Watch. I'm at Brixton Fire Station, have been for the last 10 years, and we are like a family. So if any of you have watched London's Burning, I should have put a slide on there actually. Anyway, London's Burning, it actually, not much has changed from then to now in terms of the camaraderie, how we kind of react and how we interact with people on station. It's like your friends and your family, basically, then you go to fires. So it's amazing. So working as a team is very, very important in terms of being a firefighter and just in general in life. Problem solving. I talked about the focus and determination. You're never going to be faced with 2 fires that are the same. So you need to make sure that you can get solutions to the problems that you're faced with. And you need to make sure that, basically the fire's got to be put out before you go home. So you need to solve that problem. And the massive problem is that all that orange stuff that's punching out the windows. So problem solving and working as a team goes hand in hand. Coping well under pressure. So I've mentioned Grenfell, which is obviously the biggest fire in terms of since the Great Fire of London, and that it's had a lot of news coverage. You are under immense pressure when people are, saying that my family are there, they're inside. I need your help. You need to make sure that you're able to cope well under that pressure, but still be able to deliver. And so the focus is where it comes in. The focus is key, because you will have so many things thrown at you, weather conditions, people, noise, obstacles, random explosions, for example. You need to make sure that you can cope under pressure, get those things done, maintain your focus, and just get stuff done. So I hope I've explained that slide well enough. Next slide, please. As a teenager, I wish I knew. Yeah, not everyone has the same work ethic or ambition. Excel anyway. Save for your first property investment. It's so important, so key. It just gives you a bit more flexibility when you're older, not to worry about sort of finance, and that you're not pushed into certain roles that you didn't really want to do because you're thinking, that pays well, but I don't really like it. It's not really my passion. I'll just go for it anyway. So if you're able to put money aside, from college, even £50 a month, £100, and you can staircase it and do £200, just get into the idea and the habit of saving a little bit every month. So by the time you finish uni, you've got your first job, you've got a little bit of a deposit for your investment or your property, whatever you want to do. Even if it's buying your first car outright, it means that it's a lesser expenditure to worry about. So that's important for kind of like stability, financial stability. And the last thing on this slide is to find a mentor. A lot of people don't have access to mentors or good role models. Some people do. Some people find their mentors in teachers or their parents or older sisters or brothers. But if you don't have access to those people, then perhaps look into finding a life coach or finding a mentor or going to a mentoring company, just to have a bit more of an insight into sort of adult life, and just to have someone kind of steer you in the right direction, just give you some more advice and information. If you're armed with information, then the world's your oyster. You can then navigate throughout the world with a bit more substance. So those are the things I wish I knew as a teenager. Okay, so how can attendees find out more about getting into your industry? So, okay, it's self-explanatory, it's there. So open days, go onto the website, london-fire.gov.uk. We do a lot of outreach events and careers fairs. Obviously, we don't do online like Just a Guy has done, which is very, very clever. But we usually go into schools, go into careers fairs, and we have like a stand, and we have people doing outreach work and stuff like that. So, or if you can't do that after the lockdown and stuff has been lifted, you can also just pop into your local fire station. We've got loads of leaflets, information, talk to the firefighters there on duty, have a look around the station. They'll give you paraphernalia just to kind of help you on your journey into discovering what it is like to be a firefighter for the London Fire Brigade. So I hope I've explained myself and my talk was okay, and you got a bit more of an insight into what I do. I'm open to any questions. Ask away any questions. It will be great. Anything else I'd like to add? Okay, so I am so hot on truth and honesty. Be honest with yourself first, because you can't lie to yourself. It will trip you up. So be honest with yourself about what you want to do, your limitations, your strengths, and your weaknesses, and what you can do to work on those or to hone things, whatever. And then be honest with others as well, because people respect integrity. So that leads nicely into the next one. So have integrity in all aspects of life. So we're dealing with your friends, your family, your co-workers, a stranger in the street. Have integrity in your actions and how you are, and it's your reputation. It's who you are. You want people to believe you, to respect you, to admire you. So just have integrity in all aspects of life, and you can't go wrong. Be willing to learn. A lot of people think they know it all. I don't know it all. I learn new things every day. I have a 7-year-old son, and I learn things from him every day. I learn things at work. I learn things from my friends. And, it's good to surround yourself with a good circle of friends, who you aspire to be, or who inspire you. It's very good that your circle, friends and family are strong, and they're intelligent, and they're encouraging as well. So surround yourself with great people. Share your gifts and talents with people, your friends, your family, and actually find out what your gifts and talents are by actually taking some time to reflect and look inside yourself and think, what, I'm good at that. Oh, that's my talent. It comes easy to me. How can I capitalize on that? It's very, very important. And the last thing, in capitals, you have to love yourself. Love yourself, because, you're your own investment. Love yourself. And that's, taking pride in self-care and just, nurturing yourself. So love yourself. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much. There's been a lot of questions, so we'll try and get a few over. I suppose if we just start with hopefully an easy one for you to start off with, is Shannon's question. And sort of the careers you mentioned before, firefighting, didn't necessarily suggest that firefighting was the next step. So what was the process in making that decision?
Right, so I get this question all the time. So what made you want to become a firefighter? And I was like, actually, honest God's truth, it's a careers fair. I was working at the college at a careers fair, and I was walking around and I saw the army sort of like stands, and Choice FM back in the day stand, and then I saw the London Fire Brigade stand. I was on my lunch break, I was walking around, and some guy sort of literally reached out to me and said, "Oh, hello, have you ever thought about being a firefighter?" And I was like, "No." Like, "Oh, well, we have a few open days. Can I give you some information?" I was like, "Oh, okay then. Yeah, no problem." So it was a careers fair. So you're in the right place, guys. So careers fair, got some information, attended an open day, spoke to the firefighters there, and I was sold. From then, I was like, this is what I want to do. These people had been in the job for like 10 years, 12 years, 16 years, and they were still smiling. They loved their job. And I was like, I'd never even thought that could be possible. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do my research about this career. And from then I was like, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. That's how I became a firefighter.
There's also been a couple of questions around being in the job you're in, and maybe relate to your background. So I just put up Lava's question, which was, have you ever faced problems? Obviously, they've identified that being a female firefighter is not as common as maybe you'd hope it was. And is that something you've ever had to fight against, or has it been?
To be honest, I haven't had any major problems due to me being a female and being a firefighter. I've had nothing but positive experiences of being a female firefighter with the London Fire Brigade. I think the common misconceptions about being a female firefighter is that you're not as strong as the men, you can't do the same work. And I get the questions all the time, do you do the same things as the guys? do you go into the fires as well? Or do you just work in the office? And, you know, sometimes I have a bit of fun and be like, oh yeah, I just follow the guys around in the truck and I just do the paperwork. And then they're like, oh, you know, okay, yeah, it makes sense. Because, you know, you're not used to seeing a female firefighter. And I get it all the time on the street, like, oh my God, you're the first female firefighter I've seen in my life. Oh, you know, oh my God, wow, like, you know, what's it like? So I haven't had any problems, but I think just kind of like, not battling, but I think kind of working against the kind of stereotypical idea or role as a firefighter being a man is kind of like, it's interesting for me throughout my career, but it's something that, you know, me doing what I'm doing now and talking out and these careers fairs and outreach events, it just shows people out there that, yeah, I'm a female and I'm a firefighter. I've been doing it for 10 years, so you guys can do it too. So these things, this platform, these forums are very, very important in answering your question about, you know, have you faced any difficulties being a female firefighter and stuff. So I've overcome quite a lot of things by just being a female firefighter for the London Fire Brigade, if that makes sense.
Yeah, really does.
I think one other thing I want to quickly jump in there with is there's a number of questions which are asking you about some of maybe the more difficult situations that you found yourself in. So maybe to sort of bring those together, like, do you have strategies for coping with the more challenging aspects that you might experience in your job?
Remember in my sort of my talks, my slides, I sort of mentioned that it'll be good to surround yourself with, you know, a nurturing support group, so friends and family. So those people are my support network, and they help me through a lot of things by just talking about my day at work, just talking about things I've faced. So those things help, but also we have advisory and counselling at work as well. So there's no shame in seeking out counselling if you're going through stuff in life. You know, me being a firefighter and coming up against stressful situations and, you know, things that you don't really want to see, it's more part and parcel to my role. But just in general life, you know, it's not a bad thing to reach out and go to a counsellor and just to talk about, you know, the stresses that you might be under, just, you know, from day-to-day life. So I have those support networks, so advisory and counselling through my actual employer, and then my friends and family just as, you know, soundboards, and then the self-care that I was talking about in my last slide, and loving yourself and just taking time out to say, do you know what, I need to have a half a day or a day just to kind of, you know, be at home, do the things that I like and sort of nurture yourself. So those kind of support systems are in place for me, and, you know, anybody can kind of like reach out to friends or family to kind of help and support you through those things that you might encounter through life. So I hope that's answered your question.
Absolutely. Awesome. Right. Thank you so much for your time. We'll obviously we'll try and get a few more questions to you at the open Q&A at the end. But yeah, so thank you for that. We'll pop you back to the green room.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Cheers very much. Okay, and without any hesitation, we're going to bring in Nora.
Yes, we are. Hi, Nora.
Hi, you alright?
I'm fine, thank you. Yourself?
I'm good.
Good. So Nora's is a shoot editor. Is that correct?
Yeah, shoot producer and picture editor.
Brilliant. So I'm going to let you get into it and jump into it. Thank you for being so patient. So yeah, look forward to hearing what you've got to talk about. Thank you.
Okay, hi guys. My name is Nora. I'm a creative director, shoot producer, picture editor. A few different titles there. I've been working in magazines for almost 10 years now. I primarily work at magazines, but I also work on online outlets, agencies, newspapers, that kind of thing. Next slide. Okay, so what does my role involve? So I work on the picture desk, and when it comes to the shoot side of picture desk, I work on developing concepts, ideas for the shoots, create a mood board, and the mood board is what gets sent out to celebs and their PRs so that they agree on the style of shoot. And then once we've agreed on that, I will then book a photographer, makeup artist, stylist, and I will usually go along to the shoot as well on the day, and I'll direct it all. And then when it comes to the picture research side of magazines, I will research daily paparazzi pictures to see what's out there, see what's new, and those will be the pictures that go inside the magazine. And you also have to negotiate how much you're going to pay for like exclusive pictures. And then I also pitch news and picture-led features to the desk. Next slide. So this is just an example. So we've got a shoot that I produced of Olivia Atwood from Love Island. And then on the other side, there's just an example of a picture-led feature. So that would be picture research on celebs who kind of look alike or what their celeb baby would look like. And that's just an example of what I do kind of every day at work. Next slide. So studying and training. So I did my GCSEs. I then did a graphic design BTEC at college. I then continued and did a graphic design for interactive media at university. I didn't really like university. It wasn't necessarily for me. I did it for like just less than 2 years. And then I dropped out of uni and came back to London. But I think dropping out of uni was something that made me want to really figure out what it was that I wanted to do. So when I came back to London, I was more determined and I was like, I've got to get my crap together and figure out what is going to be the next stage. But I think for my role, if you want to work on the picture desk, if you have a background in photography, it's really helpful. So then you know kind of the image specs and all the kind of technical side of it. And also when you go on shoots, you'll kind of be able to speak to the photographer and have more of an understanding of what you can actually do and achieve with the shoot. So having a photography background is definitely helpful. Next slide. Okay, so where I worked previously. So I started, so like I said, when I dropped out of uni, I was like, I need to know what I'm going to do next. So I figured out that I wanted to work at magazines, but I initially wanted to be a writer. I wanted to write for magazines and blogs and websites and things like that. So I went and researched everywhere that I wanted to work, all the magazines, online outlets. I emailed them all my CV. I just sent everyone an email. And then I ended up getting work experience at More Magazine. So that's where I started. I worked really hard in my work experience and I impressed them so that when an internship position came up, I then was an intern for them for a year. And that led to working at Closer Magazine as a picture researcher and then getting promoted to senior picture researcher. And I went freelance for a little while and I worked at magazines like Grazia and He, and I worked at The Mirror Online. And then I ended up at New Magazine. And I was a deputy picture editor there. And now I'm currently freelance again. Next slide. Okay, so what's my proudest professional achievement? So this happened really recently, actually. So I had a shoot of mine was featured as the main image on the cover. For a weekly magazine, that doesn't happen so often. It's normally the shoots kind of go in like a little bubble in the corner. But for New Magazine, that was a shoot of mine I did with Lauren Goodger. And it was the main on the cover. And then the Daniel Lloyd picture, if you can see in the top corner, that was also one of my shoots. So having 2 shoots, main on the cover on New Magazine, was quite a big deal. And then I think the other thing that I've only started recently thinking about more was just being Black and Muslim and getting this far in an industry. And you don't really see a lot of people like me in this magazine industry. So getting as far as I have done, that is something that I am actually really proud of, because there are many hurdles there, and to kind of be able to work through them and work really hard and get to places that I want to be, that's something that I'm really proud of. Next slide. So what skills and knowledge are essential? So like I said, if you've got a photography background, that is great and that will really help. But other than that, celebrity and pop culture knowledge is literally key. Like, you need to know what's going on in the world. You need to know what's going on in current affairs news as well as celeb world. When it comes to picture research, you need to know who everyone is. Like, you need to know all the difference between the Kardashian sisters. You can't have a wrong picture going in the magazine. You need to know your Kanye's from your Stormzy's. And I'm sure you guys might have seen when online publications, especially when they are so quick to get pictures out and they use the wrong picture. And it's because whoever is on the picture desk doesn't know the difference between these celebs. So I would say celeb and pop culture knowledge is the most important. And then when it comes to shoot production and ideas for picture-led features, being creative and having ideas is also really key. You can just do what you're told and kind of research the pictures that you're told to research. But if you can come up with ideas as well, it makes you really an important part of the team. And then organizational skills. If you're working at a weekly or a monthly magazine, you kind of work ahead. So you might be working on 2 or 3 issues at a time. So you need to stay organized and stay on top of things. And then being good under pressure is also really key. if you're working online, it is super fast paced. So you need to be good under pressure, unflappable, whatever they throw at you, you need to be able to do it. And when you work on shoots, there are a lot of last minute things that go wrong, and you need to just keep a cool head and be good under pressure and be able to solve any problems that come up. Next slide. As a teenager, what I wish I knew. So I touched on it before. Diversity it was something that I never really thought about. I've grown up in London my whole life, and it's super multicultural, whether I've been at school, college, university. I went to university in Leicester, still multicultural. I worked retail, still multicultural. And then I got into the office world and magazine world, and that was all kind of gone. And I felt really kind of weird and out of place. And I kind of wish that I knew that just to prepare me. I think it's good to know what you're up against, to know what hurdles you need to work around. So that was something that I wish I knew as a teenager. Also, being friendly and making connections with people, that sometimes does count as much as what your experience is. So if you imagine there are two CVs and you've got same experience, same education, what is going to be the thing that sets you apart? So it's going to be your personality, being likable, being confident. And I was really awkward when I first started working. So I just thought if you work hard, that's all that matters. But I think working hard and making an effort with people in the office, being friendly, making those connections, because you never know who you might meet in the future, like they might be able to hook you up with a job. So I know that people that I did work experience with and interned with almost 10 years ago, they are in different places now where they can give me a job. So it's really important that you make those connections and you stay friendly with people. And also it's fine to just not know exactly what you want to do yet. I think you guys are all like 15 to 19. So I would say use these years to figure out what you're good at, figure out what you love, and then just try different things, try loads of new things. Like I said, I thought that I wanted to be in graphic design. And then when I left uni, I was like, I want to be a writer. And then I ended up on a picture desk, which I didn't even know was a real desk. And I ended up loving it. So don't be afraid to not have a concrete plan. Try different things out, see what you're good at, see what you love. It's better to do it all now when you're young rather than getting to 40 and realizing you're in a career that you don't even like. So it's fine if you haven't got it figured out. Just keep learning, be open to new situations, and it will all fall into place. Next slide. So how can attendees find out more about getting into your industry? So research is key. Don't be afraid to email people. Like I said, I researched different magazines, different online outlets. I found email addresses for editorial assistants or editors of the teams I wanted to work at. Email them, it's fine. Email them, send them your CV, ask for work experience or internships. And then when you're looking for jobs, so Reach PLC, Hearst and Condé Nast, those are the biggest publishing companies, I would say, in the UK. So you can look for email addresses there and contact them. You can also sign up to job alerts from them. As well as them, you can get job alerts from Indeed, Decision Jobs and journalism.co.uk. They're really good for media jobs. And then once you get even like the slightest little toe in the door, don't move it. Make the most of even the smallest opportunity, the smallest bit of experience. Keep in touch with everyone, let them know you're available to come back to work, to do more work experience or intern, and that will keep you on their mind so that when a job opportunity comes up, they'll think of you. Next slide. So I don't know if we can click on these links to social media. So these are just links of different shoots that I've done. So that includes the Lauren Goodger shoot that was the main on the cover. I also did a Charlotte Crosby shoot, which was a 6-page feature inside. And then also Jake Quickenden, we did a last-minute shoot with him, which was going to be in Manchester. And I managed to organize it all in like the last few days. And it was a 6-page feature inside a magazine. So that was really cool. Next slide. So anything else to add? So I spoke about it before, but the lack of diversity in publishing and in magazines, there is a lack of it, but I don't want that to discourage you. I want it to encourage you guys to try and break into these industries because you can do it. And I think there's more talks about getting a more diverse workplace. So whatever it is, if it's even your race, your sexuality, your gender, whatever it is, I think people are being more open to making more diverse workplaces. So I really do encourage you guys to not be put off by it and to just really still go for what you want. And if you are going to be a minority in the workplace, it kind of works in your favor because you're the only person that has that kind of viewpoint, and nobody else in the company will think the same way that you do. So that's actually an advantage because you have something new to offer. And again, that sets you apart from the next person who is also applying for the job. And just your voice is really important. So whatever hurdles are in your way, no matter how many knockbacks you get, knockbacks are normal. Like, it's normal to get turned down for things. Don't let that discourage you. So just keep moving forward and keep trying and working hard, and your voice is important. So make sure that you make it into your industry. And I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the information on the slide right here is really, really key. I think workplaces I need to be more representative, so much more representative.
Absolutely.
So everyone looking at possible career options realizes that they can go for whatever they want. And until people see themselves in all these roles, it's going to be a lot more difficult. It takes trailblazers like yourself and Kylie and everyone else to kind of show you can work wherever you want. But representation is key.
And I think that's one of the main things why I've done this careers fair, is that I want to have a mixture of people from different backgrounds, different industries, and for students to be able to see someone like themselves on this platform as well. So thank you for noting that on your slides too.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just one question, or a couple of questions actually. I think it's been repeated a few times. Is kind of for those watching who are inspiring photographers, YouTubers, or maybe want to get into a similar career. Any advice of sort of where to get started with their creativity and their work?
So YouTube I can't really help with, but when it comes to photography, the quality of your images is the most key thing above all. So make sure that you have as good of a camera as you can get. Use editing software like Photoshop to make your pictures brighter, to contrast the colors, and just keep practicing. Like, I always search on YouTube for Photoshop tutorials. So find tutorials for the pictures that you want to edit, and then just that will advance your skill set. So, and just keep practicing. So practice with friends, practice with families, do whatever shoots that you can do, basically whatever's around you, whatever's available. Keep practicing. And also a way into photography is being a photographer's assistant. So that way you can learn more about studios and lighting and all the kind of technical aspects of things. So if you want to be a photographer, I would say it's really good to be a photographer's assistant first, and then just also practice in your own time.
Awesome. I think that probably covers a few people who are kind of interested about that first step. So really, really useful. And there've been a lot of questions, so hopefully we get to fire a few back at you after we have Richie up next. But just a huge thank you for contributing and sharing.
You're welcome.
Thank you. See you soon.
Okay. Right, Lawrence, so we've got Richie up next, I believe, right?
Yes, we have. We've got Richie up next, who is a television presenter, and he presents currently on Blue Peter, which I used to watch when I was young, many, many years ago. How are you, Richie?
I'm good, thank you, Lawrence. How are you?
I'm very well. I see you've you put your cap on today.
Yeah, now it is. The lockdown locks absolutely not the one, and I couldn't fit in a barber appointment until tomorrow. So I didn't want to embarrass myself or you or anyone on the panel by looking like I did. So I thought I'd wear a cap at least.
As you can see, me and Ben.
I've been preparing for lockdown for years. I've been ready.
Right. We'll hand it over to you and let you take it away.
Lovely, thank you, gents. So yeah, my name is Richie Driss. I'm a television presenter currently on a children's television show called Blue Peter, which happens to be the longest running children's TV show in the world, which is still surreal to me. My role involves learning scripts, generating ideas around subjects that I'm passionate about, So obviously there's the usual sport, technology, films, but also personally, anything that kids would be maybe interested in, whether it's equal rights or how stuff works, as I said, like technology. In past jobs I delved a lot more, and I did more sort of content towards 18 to 35, 40-year-olds. My current role also involves, which is something that I've been having to learn and adapt to, because I've only been in the job for about 18 months. So self-awareness, I need a lot of self-awareness in my role, because now that I'm in the public eye, if you want, you can Google a story that Daily Mirror did on me when I first got the job. But now that I'm in the public eye, I need to sort of be mindful of that. And when I'm out in public, I need to just make sure that I'm not acting a complete fool, because you never know who might recognize you or who might spot you. For example, I was in a coffee shop with mates, and we were just talking about whatever we were talking about. I think it was after a night out. And later on, about an hour later, I got a comment on Instagram saying, "Oh my gosh, were you at this Costa and so and so and so?" So it's a good thing that we weren't talking about anything ridiculous, because they might have pounced on that. My role also involves definitely being adaptable. It's live television that I do at the end of the day. So we've had a fire alarm go off during a live broadcast, and we had to roll with the punches with that. The Blue Peter dog decided to chew a pen lid, so I had to try, when the camera was on my co-presenters, I had to try and wrestle this pen lid out of this dog's mouth in case he choked on it. Naturally, being in the public eye as well, and being in a studio setup, and it being such a long-running program and a bit of an institution, and having the fans that we have, it also means that we have special guests come around the studio, and fortunately, they're given the opportunity to come around, say hello to us, take a look behind the scenes. But unfortunately, some of them may be children who have life-limiting illnesses as well, so you need to adapt to be able to give them the best experience that you can, while then 30 minutes later completely changing your tone and doing a live television show. Obviously, learning scripts, it's a bit of a live television. It's a bit of a choreograph. There's a lot of choreography in a way, because you need to deliver specific lines to specific cameras at specific times. So you need to learn that as well. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, that there's a lot more that meets the eye. Next slide, please. This is going to be a very different chat compared to some of the previous, far more important life-saving careers that have been spoken about, because there's no one real way into becoming a television presenter. I came out of university, I graduated from university, got a degree in film and television studies, really academic, and then I didn't know what to do with myself. So the sort of only formal training, I guess, that I've got is my degree, which helped me be able to handle cameras and editing software, which became very, very useful in the future. But otherwise, pretty much all self-taught. Next slide, please. Where have I worked previously? I've had 1,000,000,001 jobs. It's one of those career choices that whereby you need to do, obviously, the jobs to pay the bills. So, for example, working in pubs and bars and retail, handing out leaflets, whatever it is. But the previous, I wouldn't even call them jobs because they weren't necessarily paid. Previous roles that I had were, I was on community radio at a radio station in Ealing in West London called West Side Radio. I was there for 3 years, producing and presenting my own radio show. And that allowed me not only, as I said, to learn production and sound editing skills, but it gave me the sort of, it gave me the opportunity as well to branch out into interviewing skills. So when I was there, I got to interview some decent to say the least names like Future and Tinashe, and go behind the scenes at festivals such as Wireless. And that really taught me a lot more about the sort of end product from what it was that I wanted to deliver. So it's one thing presenting, but it's another thing, what comes out on the other side of it. So when it came to Wireless particularly, it was, all right, what do we want to achieve? We want to achieve numbers, views on this video. So we need to do this and this and this, and we need to learn to produce it as well. From there, I went on to produce fund, direct, script, do everything, and pitch an original series for Grime Daily website. It was a computer games based thing. I saw a gap in the market, and I know that everyone is into the computer games. So I thought, well, how about getting combining two interests, which is like rap music and gaming, and combining them to create this video series. And I did everything myself, but just had to pitch it to Grime Daily because I don't know Kano. So obviously they do. They have the links. So so we pitched them the product. We went to them with something, and all they had to do was provide the talent, and that was that. That learning to produce, direct, script, do everything behind the scenes as well as present in front of the camera, that led me onto my first paid job in the media, which was at a website called joe.co.uk. I didn't get into that, which was my first, as I said, paid job in the media industry until I was 27 years old. So it took a while, but it was worth it. And there, my role involved everything from the sort of conception of a video idea to the delivery. So I would be in touch with PRs and film companies about like the latest film that was coming out and what we wanted to do around it, which it was normally something to do with the talent of the film. Think of the best idea possible that the PR was happy to do, that we were happy to do, and that we thought would get as many numbers on the video as possible as well, and then deliver it. An example of that was for the film Glass, which is the sequel to Unbreakable. I don't know if anyone knows of it. It stars Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, and James McAvoy. For that, I somehow managed to arrange to have Samuel L. Jackson and James McAvoy in a hotel room smashing stuff up, which is still surreal to talk about. But that was something that I pitched to the PR of the film, pitched to my bosses as well, and we managed to get over the line. And I wasn't presenting that per se, but I was directing it. I was in charge of how many cameras there were. I was building the rapport with the talent. You know, when they came into the room, I was sort of point of contact, and you've got to be able to build a rapport with them and make sure that they are nice and relaxed and comfortable because, yeah, they're obviously, it's a difficult thing to do because what am I going to talk to Samuel L. Jackson about? No idea. Next slide, please. My proudest professional achievement to date. I mean, do you know what? Being able to take anything that I'm passionate about, so the arts, movies, music, sport, and be able to make money around creating content and presenting is a very, very proud achievement. But this one that I wrote down was interviewing an idol, Denzel Washington, for a film that he did. And not only was it a proud achievement because he's Denzel Washington, and I can't think of a bad film of his off the top of my head, but also the interview started really, really badly. My opening question didn't go down too well, but I managed to turn things around. And the interview actually got picked up by a few outlets, like over in America, Ebony Magazine picked it up, the Daily Express picked it up. I asked him, I can't remember what the question was specifically, but he talked about watching Black Panther and it making him cry. And it was because he was sort of passing the baton on to the next level of African-American and Black talent in the film industry. So that was a really, really proud achievement of mine as well. And of course, Blue Peter, because it's a British institution. So yeah, being able to tell my mum that I got that job and seeing her reaction was quite something as well. And I'm not going to lie, it still hasn't really sunk in. So yeah, next slide, please. Skills and knowledge that are essential for this industry. One thing straight away that you need to make sure that you're aware of when it comes to the media industry in particular is that everything is subjective. So what is a great idea to one person may be a terrible idea to someone who is more important than you, and therefore it won't get made. So for example, the video that I mentioned before with Samuel L. Jackson and James McAvoy just breaking stuff in a hotel room. If my bosses didn't think that was a good idea, or the PRs didn't think that was a good idea, it wouldn't have been made. And I thought, if I do say so myself, I thought it was a pretty decent idea. I thought, you know, that video would get made, and thankfully it did. But there are loads and loads, countless thousands of ideas that I thought of, and even on Blue Peter now, there are countless films, films, subjects for films, I should say, and ideas that I've thought of that the bosses don't necessarily like. Everything is subjective. Don't take it personally. Have a thick skin. Working with a variety of people that well, the variety isn't what it should be diversity wise, but working with the variety of people and the variety of subjects I get to cover is amazing. One day and you need to be able to adapt to that. So maybe one day I'm driving a remote controlled car, with my hands off the steering wheel, and you need to be able to speak to them on the same level that you speak to a 7-year-old who's made a bug garden, for example, or a bug hotel in a garden. So you need to be able to be open to everyone, roll with the punches, be versatile. And as I've touched on already, because I've hardly really spoken about Blue Peter as much as I could do, because I think it's vitally, vitally important that if you want to get into broadcasting and the media industry, you need to have more skills to your bow than just being able to speak to a camera. You need to be able to produce, you need to be able to direct, you need to be able to liaise and be a people person as well, because it's one thing being able to get in front of a camera and say lines, but it's another thing behind the scenes being able to make that stuff happen. And I started DJing on a radio station, and I'm nowhere near that now, but I've still got those skills. So if I wanted to go and DJ at a gig, or I wanted to maybe potentially get on the radio someday, I've still got those skills to back me up at the moment. Next slide, please. As a teenager, I wish that I knew. Definitely, the starting is the most difficult point. It seems so daunting, and I remember consciously saying at the age of 24, saying to myself, right, if I don't start this now, then I never will. And the later you leave it, potentially, the more daunting it is. Because although everyone goes at their own pace, and there's no race as such, it's not, it doesn't matter if someone gets to a particular place before you. I have people that are 10 years younger than me that are doing far bigger and better things than I do, but everyone goes at their own pace. But the longer you leave it, the more difficult and more daunting it is to start out. So I wish I'd taken those steps sooner, rather than coming out of university, not having the self-belief that I do now, and not just sort of taking the plunge. It is a very, very competitive career, broadcasting, being a television presenter. It's something that everyone wants to do, but not many people want to put the work in, per se. And if you've got the connections and you're privileged enough, then that's great, fair play. More power to you and good luck. But you need to be able to show that you would put the graft in, show that you are happy to, say, pay for a train ticket around London, do a 2-hour commute to a radio station, do a 3-hour show, and then either a 2-hour commute home, or then go and network afterwards. So be out of the house for all hours of the day, making sure that you are putting yourself forward for whatever opportunities that there are. You need to be tenacious. As Nura said, once you get your toe in the door, do not move it, and then wedge your foot in a little bit more. So I wish I knew all of that as well. Next slide, please. How can attendees find out more about getting into this career? As I said at the start, the career that I'm lucky enough to have, it's not something that you can there's no easy, straight path to get into it. Everyone gets into the industry differently. You look at Maya Jama, who did a little bit of YouTubing, and she was on Rinse FM as a DJ for years and years and years. Obviously, she's huge and a household name now, but she started off doing YouTube. Networking is hugely important. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to have a passion for whatever it is you want to broadcast. You do not want to be someone that is on it, to be famous, or, I mean, yeah, fair play if that's your thing, fair enough. But if you don't know what you're talking about, then you will be found out as well. And that's the reason that, say, Julie Adenuga, who was on Beats One, she got to Beats One because of her passion for music. Gary Lineker is obviously an ex-professional footballer, so he knows what he's talking about. That's why he's presenter on Match of the Day. You could say the same thing about the guys on Top Gear. They know about their cars. You need to know and have the knowledge in what it is you want to talk about before you then take the plunge, because otherwise you'll get found out. So with regards to getting into the industry, go to events. So for example, if music is your thing, go to music events, small music events. At the end of the day, A, you want to be there because it's music, and B, there'll be loads of people like you and that are in maybe higher positions than you that can help you out, that are at those music events. Just mingle, talk to anyone, but always also arm yourself with something that you can give. If you just go there and you say, hi, I want to be a presenter, all right, so the 30 other people, fair enough, but go there with something that you can offer as well. For example, I didn't go to Grime Daily with nothing. I went there with an idea. There's plenty online as well. BBC are always running various different schemes and careers fairs as well, like this one. That will help as well. Next slide, please. Yes, links to social media. If you've got any questions that I don't get to answer, feel free to throw a DM my way. Or rather, actually, I take that back. Please don't DM me. I'm not allowed to answer DMs if you're below the age of 18, just in case. You know how it is. So please don't DM me. What I'll do is I'll leave my email address with the guys here at the Careers Fair. And if you've got any questions, I'll do my best to answer them as quickly as I can and hopefully keep in contact in the future as well. My show reel is right there as well. Leave a comment below that and I'll check it as well, and I'll be able to answer questions there as well. Hope that was helpful. It was definitely nowhere near as academic as everyone else. And my career is definitely not as important as a lot of the other people that we've had on this panel, but I love my job at the end of the day, and I think it's very, very important to do something that you are passionate about and that you love as well. And to end with a really cheesy quote, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, which, as I said, when I was 24 and I didn't have a career, I was like, what on earth am I doing with my life? That was when I decided to take the plunge. Better late than never. But there you have it. Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really interesting. And there's a fair few questions coming in too.
Say again, sorry.
There's a fair few questions coming in too. So we'll put a few questions to you and then we'll bring everyone back in for a bit of a final powwow. Interesting question from Shannon. You did allude to this in terms of how much commitment does your job involve? It sounds like there's been a huge amount of commitment up to this point, and presumably it doesn't stop here either. You're not resting on your laurels.
No, of course not. I would never. It's something that I need to personally take stock in what I've done more than I do, but because of my drive, I never sit on my laurels. It takes a huge amount of commitment. I was working in a pub at the age of 27 when I got my first break, working in a pub to pay the bills, while my mates were, on 80k jobs in the city in London. So it just depends on how passionate you are about whatever it is you want to broadcast in. Because of my love for films, music, sport, and my lack of talent in all of those fields when it comes to performing them, I thought, right, this is where I need to broadcast. And I felt like I had something to offer as well. So yes, a lot of commitment. The amount of hours out of my house and the amount of traveling was worth it ultimately.
Brilliant. We've got another question from Shannon, and maybe we could take a few tips from that. So what advice do you have for interviewing people? Or you can tell us how badly we've done today.
You guys have been amazing. When you mean interviewing people, obviously I've never been in a position where I interview someone for a job, but when it comes to interviewing someone in terms of broadcasting, be original, be unique. The reason that I touched on the Denzel Washington interview earlier on, he would have sat, and when it comes to interviewing these sorts of people, he would have sat in a hotel room and not moved for 8 hours answering the same questions over and over and over again. So you need to think outside the box a little bit, and you just need to be yourself and original. And at the end of the day, without wanting to be weird about it, the way that I thought about it, and this is weird, I'm sorry, but it's a good tip. Everyone poos. So whether you're Samuel L. Jackson or whoever, a footballer, name a footballer, Wayne Rooney, like everyone is human. So at the end of the day, just be yourself and think outside the box a little bit because you don't want to bore them.
That has added perfect. I love that. we think about that every time now when I'm kind of like meeting anyone. I think, oh, they're a bit important. On the way,
Yeah.
I got Richie's quote. Cool. So if we bring everyone else back in, all the other presenters from earlier, we can just see if there's anything else we need to pick up along the way. Hello, everyone.
Hello again.
Cool. Feedback.
Yeah, someone's earphone connection going a little bit wonky. I don't know who's got the noisy bit, but I'll have to go through and mute someone at some point. Cool. So if anyone's got any questions out there that they want to repeat or get answered, please let us know. I think one thing that I've spotted in the themes from everyone's talks is, and something that's come up over the last couple of days actually, is getting out there and contacting people and just making that effort, even though it might feel a bit awkward to do it, especially when you're a youngster. That seems to be the theme that's come out about go and ask someone, send someone an email, connect with someone, and build your network seems to be the common theme. I don't know if anyone has any specifics they want to pick up on that one, but that seems to be coming up quite a lot.
Yeah, when I did some work experience at Capital Extra through a scheme that I applied for, and I thought to myself, right, well, I'm going to be here for 7 days, and I'm going to be basically a nuisance to everyone. But I needed something to a way of planting myself in the memory of everyone that I can refer back to. So every single day I took in chocolate, like a huge just box of Celebration to Equality Street. And I really played into that. And then, when it came to an email afterwards, it was a lot easier for me to say, yeah, I was the guy that bribed everyone with chocolate. Does that make sense? Shameless.
I would agree with Richie's plan. Like, if you are on work experience or anything like that, bringing in chocolates or biscuits or just something at the end of your work experience, it really is something that sets you apart from everyone and makes you be like that person that they remember. And the only other thing I would add about emailing people is just you have to be proactive. Like, don't expect jobs to kind of just fall in your lap. So do the research, email as many people as you can. Even if you email 30 people, maybe one will reply. So don't be discouraged by that. That is just how it goes. But yeah, just be really proactive about what you want and go out there and find a way to get it.
And what I'll just add to that about emailing people, make sure you have a sensible email account, because I remember what mine was at 15, and I'm not going to say it out loud on air.
You got to now? No?
Okay, it was a play on my height. It was smalls at hotmail.com. Yes, smalls. Yeah, anyway. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I second everything the guys have said as well. Definitely being proactive is so important. If you don't ask, you don't get, essentially, as well. So it's so important to actually put yourself out there and just see what makes a difference and what comes of that,
A general question that I want to also ask to the group is, what has been your biggest setback and how did you recover from it? Because one of the things I'm keen to put out there as well is, I think with a lot of social media, everyone sees the final destination, but they don't actually see the steps you did to get to that level or where you are now.
I can go. I got one immediately. So when I was first starting out on radio, I went for an open Kiss Radio did open auditions for presenters called Kiss Chosen One, and the first time I did it, I managed to somehow get into the top 10. Didn't get a job out of it, but getting into the top 10 from the whole of the UK I was very, very proud of that. So when he did it again, I went back again and I went to the auditions that were at Westfield in Stratford, and you got to go through 2 different sort of producers first. You got to pitch yourself and audition to one producer, then a second producer, and then you get put in front of the bosses. The second time I thought, okay, I did this once, get to the top 10, easy, job done, hopefully. And I didn't even get past the first producer twice. I went on the Saturday, didn't get past the first producer. On the Sunday, fell at the very first hurdle again. And that was definitely the biggest sort of shock to my confidence that there was. I sort of let the pressure and the fact that I did I let that get the better of me. And how I got over that, determination, I guess, just stubbornness, if you like.
Thank you. Michelle? Sorry, I can't hear you, Michelle.
You're muted.
Hello? We'll come back to you, Michelle. Kylie?
I would say my biggest setback in my career was I actually applied. Can you hear me, guys? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good. My biggest setback was when I first sort of started out in my career. So before I even started out, if that makes sense, I applied for the fire brigade through the graduate scheme. And I thought, yep, I'm a graduate, you know, it'd be good to do sort of fast track, stuff like that. But I didn't get past the first or second stage. So after going to my stage and stuff like that, and then applying for the role, so you actually get sort of rejected, I was so disheartened. I was like, oh my God, this is what I really want to do. And, you know, that was like a wake-up call for me to kind of be more determined to do more research and be a bit more flexible in applying for my role. And I applied again for the normal, you know, firefighter route. And I got in, but it took me 11 months to get in for my first application to actually setting foot in Suffolk Fire Station. So that was determination and focus. And I actually left my job before I even knew that I got into the fire brigade. So I went straight into training 3 or 4 times a week just to ensure that I had that fitness to pass the fitness test for the fire brigade. So my biggest setback was that, not actually getting in past the application stage for the first graduate scheme for the fire brigade. So I persevered, and I'm here 10 years later.
Thank you. Should we go back to Michelle and see if we can hear you this time?
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
now?
we can hear you. There we go.
Oh, brilliant. Back in. So I would say it's similar to Kylie's sort of example. I think even getting into Channel 4, I remember I applied for that job maybe 3 times before I got in. And I'm convinced that the thing that actually got me through to the next sort of an interview stage was that I had started to do projects in my own time. So I had worked on CNTV. I had started to work on the web series Brothers with No Games. So it gave me something to talk about in the interview or even on my application. It demonstrated passion, and it demonstrated that using your initiative. So I think it's been said before, so I'd echo. I think Noura mentioned it, like, don't wait for the opportunity to land on your lap. There's plenty of things you can do in your own time to give you that extra thing to put on your CV.
Brilliant. Thank you. Nora?
The only thing that I would add to that is just that, like, rejection is super normal, and no one ever talks about how they got into the role that looks so glamorous and that they love now. You have to go through rejection and people not replying to your emails and getting knocked back. No one's going to talk about that, but it happens. So as glamorous as people's jobs and lives and stuff looks on Instagram, just take that with a pinch of salt, because you have to put in the hard work. And rejection is something that is character building, so that the next time you go to an interview, you're going to up your game, you're going to try harder, and ultimately you're going to be in a way better position. So try not to take it to heart and just know that everybody goes through it.
Brilliant. And Sharina?
Yeah, honestly, just to echo what everyone else has said, kind of, it's so important to just try again. Like, not everything is going to go your way, but you can always learn from your experiences and try and flip that and make it benefit you in some way, shape or form.
Brilliant. I'm aware of the time, and I asked this question earlier today. I want you to go back to when you were in year 10, and you've got the summer heading up now. Knowing what you know now, what is one piece of advice you would give yourself to do well for the summer?
Good question.
That is such a teacher question. You can see everyone going,
It is. And I don't know about everyone else, but in my head, I'm thinking, like, learn to play the drums, Ben, is what I want to go and tell myself. But I feel like I should give something a bit more, you know, sort of like adulty than that. But that's definitely what I want to tell myself.
But I would also say that you can do things to enjoy yourself, like pick up a hobby and do something creative, because you are a person outside of your professional sort of being, and that always gives you, you know, different skills like teamwork or learning how to, I don't know, something that you can add to your sort of repertoire that might help you in a later life. So I was on the fence of saying something professional versus something that is just personal development, because I think the personal development side is just as important as
Absolutely.
the professional and reaching out and sending emails and things like that.
If you can, sorry, go on.
It's that awkward moment. Everyone's like,
Everybody's too polite.
Up to you.
go on, Kylie.
Okay, I was going to say, basically, thinking back to year 10, ages ago. Wow.
It's when you said London burning.
Knowing what I know now, I think I would do the same thing that I did. I've always had a weekend job, a Saturday and Sunday job. And so throughout the summer holidays, I was always working. So I worked in the hairdressers. But because I wanted things for myself, and I wanted to be able to support myself. So I would say, if you can, go and get some work experience, whether it's voluntary or if it's paid. So I would do exactly the same thing I did when I was in year 10, which was go out, meet new people, different skill sets, through work experience or actually paid work, and just get out and explore the world that you live in. It's yours to explore. So just get out there and just meet new people and just build up your skills. So that's what I would say to do in year 10 in some holidays.
Thank you, Richie.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you've got something that you're passionate about that you want to pursue as well, and you can combine those two things. For example, myself, if you want to get into broadcasting, then take something you're passionate about, be it music, gaming, whatever, and then combine it with sort of more professional skills. For example, even if it's just using your phone and filming your mates making music, or using your phone and filming a football match and then just editing that footage down, like something like that would benefit you in the future as well.
Brilliant. Nora?
So because I work in the creative industry, if you are a creative person, like I know someone was asking about YouTube before, if you're a creative person, you should just try and be creative at all times, even if it doesn't really amount to anything. It's something that's always gonna hone your skills. And I watched something about Patricia Bright on YouTube and how she got her career. She was YouTubing for like 5 or 6 years before she made any money from YouTube, and now she is a millionaire off of it. So just if you start young, it's like all the better. It's more that you can have in your repertoire, more that you can learn, and then when you get to the working world, then you're more experienced. So yeah, starting young and just staying creative and having fun with it is something that I would advise.
And Sharina?
I'd say work on something that's kind of like outside of the whole professional aspect as well, because as well as obviously trying to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life, you're trying to figure out who you are as a person. So definitely do something that's quite like character building to help you figure out just what you enjoy, something you can just build on, just to do things for yourself. Do you know what I mean? So that
Absolutely.
is exactly what I would have done.
Absolutely. And on that note, based on what people have said, start now, guys. You've got that time. Obviously, when the restrictions are fully lifted, but there's loads of online courses to work on anything that you're passionate about. I want to say a big thank you to all our guests today. I've been inspired. Thanks for being on this platform and giving back to the community. We need to see role models like you on these platforms at these careers fairs, because it does inspire people. And even if one person's taken away one thing that you said, you've changed that person's life. So a big thank you to all of you. Hopefully we'll see you again next year. I love to put that out there on camera so people can't say no to me. So they're all nodding and smiling. So that's a yes. But honestly, thank you guys. It's been absolutely amazing. And to our audience, thank you again for joining in. And tomorrow we've got 2 sessions running, and we hope to see you then. And it's our last day, unfortunately. So, please tune in tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.